Welcome back to Punchline Protocol, the place where reality gets roasted and legends get decoded. Today, we enter the world of a man who became a myth long before he ever won an award for being one. Leonardo DiCaprio isn't just an actor. He's a cultural constant, a face that stayed the same while the world aged around it, a symbol of talent, precision, reinvention, and a reminder that sometimes the most powerful myth is the one we build without even realizing it. In Icon Burn, we don't praise, we analyze. We peel back the layers, trace the patterns, decode the systems, and look at the legend not as a celebrity, but as a blueprint. So today, we're not asking, who is Leonardo DiCaprio? We're asking, what does it take to remain Leonardo DiCaprio, even when time refuses to cooperate? Let's begin. Leonardo DiCaprio is the only man in Hollywood who aged and somehow convinced the world he didn't. Think about it. Actors evolve. Their personas shift. Their images fracture. The DiCaprio's myth stayed frozen, locked in time like a cinematic photograph the world refuses to update. Every generation remembers a different DiCaprio. The boyish prodigy, the tortured romantic, the relentless survivor, the prestige powerhouse. But none of those versions ever fully replaced the others. They just stacked on top of each other until he became a cultural paradox, a man aging in reality, but not in memory. And that, more than the roles, the awards, or the box office, is what makes him mythic. The world didn't just watch DiCaprio. It archives him, and archives don't grow old. Before we continue, a quick disclaimer. Icon Burn is satire and cultural analysis. Everything you're about to hear is based on open source information, public appearances, interviews, industry patterns, and the mythology that forms around global figures. This is not a biography, not a judgment of private life, not an investigation, and definitely not an attempt to guess what happens off camera. This is a breakdown of a public image, the myth, the perception, the narrative, and the strange machinery that turns a human being into a symbol everyone recognizes. We respect the person. We analyze the phenomenon. All right, let's dive deeper. Let's be honest. DiCaprio's private life is the only thing the internet loves more than his movies, which is exactly why we're not going there. The man won an Oscar. He doesn't deserve a group chat investigation from millions of amateur detectives armed with memes and zodiac signs. We're here for the myth, not the gossip. Some parts of this story belong in the shadows. Too personal, too strange, too human. This is the version the algorithm can handle. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't become a prodigy by accident. Hollywood didn't discover him, it designed him. In the early years, DiCaprio wasn't just talented. He was positioned as the perfect cinematic wonderkid. The sharp jawline, the intense eyes, the natural charisma. The kind of on-screen presence that casting directors describe as, we don't know what it is, but it's expensive. By the time he hit his teens, the industry already saw him as an investment, a rare commodity, a young actor who could play vulnerable and dangerous, emotionally fragile yet unbelievably controlled. Hollywood loves a sure bet, and DiCaprio looked like one, so the machine built around him early, not out of kindness, not out of artistic vision, but because the system smelled profit. And once Hollywood decides you're a prodigy, the world follows. The myth begins long before the man gets a chance to shape it. For most actors, craft is a skill. For Leonardo DiCaprio, craft became a habitat, something he lived inside, something that slowly replaced everything else. From the start, DiCaprio wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing immersion, complete emotional surrender. Roles weren't jobs. They were temporary lives he stepped into with the kind of intensity that makes directors nervous and audiences unable to look away. While other actors studied their lines, DiCaprio studied the internal weather of his characters, the storms, the fractures, the pressures that shape a person's soul. And Hollywood rewarded him for going further than anyone expected a young star to go. But here's the paradox. The more he mastered the craft, the less room there was for the man behind it. When your entire identity is built on disappearing into roles, you eventually start fading in ways the camera can't capture. The legend grows sharper, the person becomes quieter, and the myth takes over the space the human used to occupy. That's the silent cost of excellence. You don't just perfect the craft, you surrender to it. One of the greatest tricks of the DiCaprio myth is the belief that he is selective, painstakingly choosing only the best, the most prestigious, the most Oscar-coded roles. But that image didn't appear naturally. It was engineered. In the early 2000s, while his peers took 5 projects a year, DiCaprio did something radical. He slowed down, not because he lacked offers, but because the industry realized something powerful. Scarcity creates value. The less often DiCaprio appeared on screen, the more iconic each performance became. Every role felt intentional, hand-picked, curated, a rare event instead of another credit. This wasn't an artist withdrawing from Hollywood. It was a strategy. Build a career where every appearance feels like a cultural moment. And it worked. People don't remember DiCaprio's filmography chronologically. They remember it symbolically, as if each film were a chapter in a myth rather than a job on a resume. When you control when the audience sees you, you also control how they remember you. That's the difference between an actor and an icon. Hollywood is full of talented people. Millions dream of the spotlight. Thousands reach it. A handful stay long enough to matter. But only a few decide, consciously, to become extraordinary. DiCaprio wasn't born a legend. He wasn't handed a crown. He built one, brick by brick, choice by choice, obsession by obsession. He refused the easy path. No superhero franchises, no safe roles, no predictable transformations. Instead, he chased stories that demanded blood, sweat, and a small piece of his sanity. He didn't want to be famous. He wanted to be undeniable. And here's the truth nobody admits. Greatness isn't a gift. It's a sacrifice. It requires an almost ruthless belief that you were not meant to be ordinary. That belief shapes your craft, your discipline, your silence, your aura. And in DiCaprio's case, it shaped a myth stronger than time itself. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't just become a movie icon. Somewhere along the way, he became the internet's unofficial emotional mascot. His career has Oscars, masterpieces, and legendary performances. But his legacy also includes something more bizarre. He is one of the most recognizable faces of meme culture on the planet. The point, the toast, the running, the scream, the I'm done face, the Wolf of Wall Street fawn slam, the bear attack, the cheering glass, the endless expressions from films that came out decades apart, all recycled, remixed, reimagined, until DiCaprio's characters became a universal emotional language. His memes are jokes. They're cultural shorthand. They represent joy, frustration, chaos, triumph, disbelief. The entire range of human reaction encoded through one man's filmography. Most celebrities get memes made about them. DiCaprio became the meme itself, a symbol that keeps evolving no matter what he does next. That's the strange power of icons. The internet doesn't wait for your permission to turn you into mythology. Before we go deeper, quick break, no ads, just honesty. If you're still here, that means one thing. You're part of the rare audience that actually thinks while consuming content. A dangerous trait on the internet, by the way. Punchline Protocol lives for viewers like you, the ones who enjoy the myth analysis, the satire, the cultural psychology behind the icons we worship. So if you want more deep dives like this one, hit subscribe, Drop a comment, or just tell the algorithm you don't mind being shown content that doesn't treat you like you have the attention span of a toaster. All right, back to the illusion. Also, YouTube keeps telling me that 60% of you watch the whole video but forget to subscribe. Listen, if you can binge an entire breakdown of Leonardo DiCaprio's meme career, you can technically survive pressing one button. Statistically speaking, there's a strange psychological glitch in how the world sees Leonardo DiCaprio. People don't track his life in years, they track it in freeze frames. A single moment, a single role, a single expression becomes the permanent version of him in someone's mind. For one generation, he's the boy from Romeo plus Juliet. For another, the man fighting for survival in The Revenant. For millions, the Gatsby toast. And the brain does something fascinating. It refuses to update the file. That's the freeze frame effect. When a public figure becomes so iconic at different stages of life that audiences stop perceiving the stages at all. Instead of aging, he diffuses across time. Part 90s heartthrob, part 2000s prestige actor, part 2010s meme legend, part environmental statesman. He isn't one version of himself. He's all of them simultaneously. And once a person exists in parallel inside collective memory, aging becomes optional, not physically, but symbolically. That's the real illusion. The world didn't freeze DiCaprio in time. It froze its favorite version of him, and all of them survived. For most actors, an Oscar is an achievement. For Leonardo DiCaprio, it became a global sport, an annual cultural ritual where the entire planet gathered to ask, is this the year? It wasn't just Hollywood watching him. It was the world. Every nomination carried the weight of a collective expectation that somehow kept growing with every loss. And here's the paradox. The longer he went without winning, the more powerful his legend became. People turned his struggle into a narrative, a meme, a shared emotional journey. It was no longer about performance. It was about destiny. And when he finally won for The Revenant, the moment wasn't celebrated like a victory. It felt like a cultural correction, a glitch repaired, a prophecy fulfilled, a chapter finally allowed to close. But the truth is stranger. The Oscar didn't complete his myth. The pursuit of it did. The world doesn't love DiCaprio because he won. It loves him because he kept chasing excellence, even when excellence wasn't rewarded. And ironically, winning ended the joke, but cemented the legend. For decades, Hollywood tried to sell the idea that you can separate the artist from the art. But with Leonardo DiCaprio, something different happened. The art devoured the artist, and the world barely noticed. DiCaprio is one of the few global stars who managed to keep a private life almost entirely off camera. No chaotic interviews, no public breakdowns, no social media oversharing. Just silence and an aura thick enough to build a religion around. And that silence became a strategy. The less he revealed, the more the world projected onto him. People filled the gaps with fantasy, admiration, memes, theories, fear, respect, rumors, nostalgia, everything except the truth. Because the truth is simple. You can't be a myth and a human being at the same time. So DiCaprio made a choice. Let the myth speak for him. When a person becomes a cultural symbol, their real voice gets quieter. Not intentionally, but inevitably. He didn't disappear. He became abstract. A presence without overexposure. A legend without a running commentary. A star who stayed bright because he refused to burn out in public. And that is the paradox of DiCaprio. The more private he became, the more universally visible he was. Every icon eventually faces the same question. What will you leave behind when the applause fades? For Leonardo DiCaprio, the answer wasn't a franchise, a perfume line, a lifestyle brand, or a never-ending parade of talk show appearances. He chose something bigger and infinitely more complicated: saving the planet. While most celebrities turn activism into an accessory, DiCaprio turned it into a second career, one that demanded credibility, consistency, and a level of public scrutiny most actors would never survive. He didn't attach himself to causes as decoration. He built foundations, produced documentaries, funded research, and stood on global stages where the conversation wasn't about fame, but responsibility. And here's the part people misunderstand. Environmental activism didn't soften his legacy, it cemented it. Because myth and morality have always been connected. When a public figure chooses a cause bigger than themselves, they stop being just a performer and become a symbol for what humanity hopes to be. DiCaprio understood something most fame-chasing celebrities never will. Your filmography can make you famous, but your principles can make you immortal. There's a reason Leonardo DiCaprio feels ageless, and it has nothing to do with skin, health, or Hollywood lighting. It's because DiCaprio aged in reality, but never in role, never in myth, and never in the collective memory of the audience. He is a man whose career evolved without ever breaking its fundamental illusion, that time affects him physically, but not symbolically. Most actors age in public. Their roles change, their energy shifts, and the audience adjusts, accepting the march of time. But DiCaprio exists in a paradox. His early roles were so defining, so iconic, so deeply encoded into cultural memory that the world subconsciously refuses to update him. To some, he's still the romantic hero. To others, the rebellious outsider. To others, the prestige titan. And to an entire generation, he is the meme king of emotional reactions. He doesn't have one legacy, he has several, all running simultaneously, none fully replacing the others. Time moved, he aged, the world watched. But the legend didn't get the memo. That's the paradox of eternal youth. Not that you stay young, but that the image people love never grows old. Every icon burn ends in the same place. Not with the person, but with the illusion the world built around them. And Leonardo DiCaprio's illusion is one of the strongest in modern culture. He is a rare figure who transcended the timeline of his own life, a man whose image exists separately from his aging body, someone whose name doesn't point to a human being, but to a constellation of roles, symbols, memes, ideals, and expectations. His myth isn't built on invincibility, or perfection, or a flawless public persona. It's built on something far more powerful: emotional permanence. Every generation has a DiCaprio they carry with them. Every era has a role of his they claim as their own. Every audience has a version of him that feels frozen in the exact moment they first saw it. And that's the secret most icons never learn. You don't achieve immortality by living forever. You achieve it when people refuse to let the version of you they love fade with time. DiCaprio won't be remembered as a man who avoided aging. He'll be remembered as the one who broke the illusion of aging itself. Not because he cheated time, but because he conquered memory. And memory, once captured, is eternal. If you made it this far, then you already know. Punchline Protocol isn't just about roasting icons. It's about decoding the systems, the myths, and the illusions that shape our world. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of them, a man who turned craft into legend and legend into something that outlived time. If you want more deep dives like this one, smart satire, philosophical comedy, and cultural analysis that actually thinks before it jokes, hit that subscribe button and stay with us inside the Protocol Multiverse. Punchline Protocol continues here every week. And if you want the darker, investigative side of this universe, the power structures, the hidden systems, the quiet truths behind influence, explore our other channel, Dark Side Protocol. 2 channels, 1 multiverse, and we're just getting started. Drop a comment below. What does DiCaprio represent for you? Which version of him lives in your memory? I'll be reading everything. See you in the next icon burn.